Welcome to another episode of In Between Homes, and today we are with Sabrina. Sabrina empowers women for more than 10 years now. Her passion lies in guiding women to overcome burnout and break free from the cycle of chronic stress. I think her dedication to that is so important because probably a lot of us are experiencing a lot of stress in our life, and knowing and having the right tools is really important. So today we are going to understand more who is Sabrina, her story, and how she became this empowering woman to others.
Thank you,
Hi,
Lucy.
Sabrina.
Hello.
So I love to start with 10 years ago. Where were you in the world? How was your life? What you were doing? So if you can share with us.
Yes, so 10 years ago, I was in Brazil. That is my birth country. And I was working financial market. It was my first career. I worked almost 20 years, more than 15 years in financial marketing, investment banks and broker dealers, hedge funds, all this. So that was where I was. I had like young kids at the time. And yeah, I used to work a lot. 10 years ago, I think was a time in my life that, of course, I had my family, but work and family was really my priorities. So I would say that even myself, I was in the second place. About was work, my family, or my family and work playing all the time. And yeah, and it was when I really experienced a huge burnout.
Can you develop a little bit how did you feel? How did you notice that you were actually experiencing burnout?
Yeah. So what happened, because my second child was still like a baby. She was less than a year. And then I start feeling always really tired. Really, I didn't have energy. So I was pushing myself to go to work. I was pushing myself to play with the kid. Even the things that generally we love doing, I wasn't being able to do anymore. So I used to exercise, and exercise was always something that gave me energy, but I didn't have energy to exercise anymore. Or when I had time to stay with my kids, I didn't have the energy to enjoy it. Because again, even in a burnout, we tend to push ourselves to our limits. So I was able to do things, but I was really not enjoying. And it get to a point that was so severe that I thought I need to do something, because I won't be able to survive like that. And it's really interesting because I wasn't sick in terms like medical terms, but I was feeling that if I keep going, I would die. I would just be like, I did. So at the time, what I said for my husband said, I'm quitting my job. And it was interesting because sometimes you need challenges in your life to make a change. But at the time, I didn't feel happy quitting my job. I quit my feeling was I was giving up something that was still very important for me. I had this feeling that, I invested so much time, so much money in courses and certifications. And now, when I was in a moment that I was really on the top of my career, I was just giving up. I was leaving. I said, and my husband was like, why? Why now? And I said, because, if I die tomorrow, I will regret so much. So I think when you are in a burnout, and that's something that you can always think about if you are experiencing something like that, we start thinking that we don't have options. I think when we are in a burnout, we don't have clarity for sure, because we can't think straight. And was exactly where I was. I thought like, I don't know what I can do. The only thing I need to stop. And at the time I couldn't like put a pause in my family, my kids that were young. So I have to put a pause in my work. I have just to stop my career. So, and again, it was not, because sometimes we need a change and we do several things. Like sometimes you change a career or quit your job, it's fine. But at the time I didn't have a feeling that, oh, that's good. I had a feeling that there is no other way. So I really need to quit, and actually was what I did. I quit my job. And fortunately, in the process of quitting my job, because I couldn't leave immediately, I wasn't as active, so I just couldn't like, okay, and give me 20 days and I go. And I remember at the time my boss said, do you know that you need to give us a notice of 6 months? And I was like, 6 months? Come on. I don't have 6 months. I'm just like done. So over the process, I decided, okay, I need to do something. So I decided to come back. My boss convinced me not to quit, but I asked him 30 days of vacations, which was not something common. I never had 30 days of vacations. I would have generally 15 days max. And he said I had to do a few calls and do some work, some light work, but I could travel 30 days, which I already had booked a place in Whistler, where I live now. So I think this 30 days changed everything, because not because I could recover it totally from my burnout, but I could have a space that I gained some clarity, and that I thought, okay, I'm not like the victim of this whole situation. I can do something. So pretty much was doing these 30 days of taking care more about myself, like meditating more, exercising, practicing yoga, eating differently, and not being 10 hours at work every day. That helped me to recover enough so I could realize I could do something about it, that I didn't have to give up something that was still important. And I think that's why my passion of supporting women to overcome burnout came from, because I know so many of us, especially women, because women are always juggling with tons of things, because we always want to do so much. And we always want to do things for other people, for friends, for family, for kids. So in several times we do have this, oh, maybe I will work, but I won't have the career that I want because it's too demanding. Or, oh, I will have one kid, or I will not have kids. And you are always trying to realize that you can't have all, and you have to give up certain things. And I think when you learn about managing stress really well and avoiding burnout, you see that we can do all. You need tools, because life always throws some curveballs on us. So you need tools, but you don't need to give up something that is important for you.
Yeah, but what I hear from your story is really that you were at the point that you were ready to actually give up on the work situation because it was too much, because it went too far, because too many things, and of course your boss convinced you to try something else, but you were at that point that something needs to change, and you make an inner decision, even though you didn't quit the job at the time, to actually work on it, to look at the situation. And I think it's very brave, because a lot of, especially women, are scared of, okay, I cannot quit the job, or maybe I need a job, or all of that. And maybe I know a lot of my girlfriends, they just have babies. It's like it's normal to be tired. It's like we make a normality of being tired as a woman, as just a mother, that yeah, you can't complain. So how you would distinct what is really the normal tiredness from having a child, from you have been too far.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because when we think it's always normal to be tired, or it's always normal that women go really late to bed because you put your kids to bed and you keep working on your household and you keep doing those things. And it's very interesting to notice that for me, the key element is when you think you have to do things and you have no options, is totally a sign of burnout and chronic stress. Because the truth is, living tired always is an option. And what I try to say a lot for people is not the option between working and having kids. It's the option like on how you do things. It's an option like on how much you invest in yourself. because the truth is that like it's so common, especially when we have young kids, that we stop investing in ourselves, even if it could be a small self-care, could be something for our mind, because we always feel, oh, I'm so busy. But if you carve 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there for yourself, then you see the difference. And then you start creating, because I really believe that you need to be creative to have a big solution for your life, because there is not, I think, the standard model, and that's the problem. The standard model doesn't really work, because what you said, the standard model said that it's normal to be always tired. It's normal to always be stressed. And for me, it was a lot about that, because my whole career was in a very stressful environment. So it was almost like, or you are a stressed person, or you are someone that doesn't care. And that's not true. And you don't need to be always stressed. You don't need to be always worried. And society now is structured, that's what they sell, especially as a mom. If you're a mom, you need to be worried about the money. You need to be worried about raising your kids. You need to be worried about what they are eating, what they are. So, and that doesn't help us. Because every time you're worried, every time you're stressed, you're just draining more energy instead of recharging. And I think that is the key point. When you notice that you feel like there is no other way, or it couldn't be different, is because you're too stressed. So you can be creative enough to see solutions. And for different people, the solutions will be different. So I really believe in unique models. I think we have like tools and elements that we teach people, but every person will have a different model. Some people will have kids, some people won't have kids. And it's not because you don't have kids that you're less, or you have more time, or you're less stressed. It's the same. And it's more like how you're going to find what you need, the tools you need, so you can really live saying like, oh yeah, I choose to live this way. I choose to have the kids, I choose to have the job, or I didn't choose to have the kids, or I choose. So it's really, because I think that's a sign when you were really aligned with yourself. You know, your life is a result of what you create. So when we are in burnout, we think that we are a victim of the situation, and there is several elements that happens in your life that you can't control, and that's it. So I think it's, if you're feeling like, oh, life is what it is because your level of stress is already too high.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for highlighting this, because I think it's where people, they keep going and they feel they have no other choices. And you speak a lot about we all have choices, but sometimes we just don't see it. So by taking those 30 days for yourself to have a break, to fly to another country, from Brazil to Canada, to a different environment, more Whistler is beautiful in the mountain. So you actually took the time to pause and to allow yourself maybe to have more creative idea about what do I want about my life? What was the questioning you had at this time, maybe with your family and all of that, to for the next chapter of your life?
Yeah, it was interesting what you said, like even this pause, it light up, because I came to Whistler for the study days in 2011, and I've been traveling to Whistler since 2003. But on that summer, I had the feeling that's my place. Was the first, I always had in my heart that I would love to live abroad, Brazil. So it was something that I was always playing with the idea. My husband also had this idea, because we lived all our whole lives in Brazil. But was those 30 days when I was with low stress, when I was enjoying life, that I said, that's my place. I want to live here. I want to move to Whistler. So it was the first time, because since the first time I came to Whistler, I had this feeling that Whistler was my place, but was kind of this far dream. Oh yeah, if you could live everywhere in the world, where it would be, I would say, oh, Whistler, or New Zealand is another country that I always loved. So, but was not a dream that I was working on. It was just an idea. And in 2011, I had this feeling, I want to work on that. I want to make it happen. Wow. So, and again, I think was very important, because as I came back, I had this idea, I had kids, I've been in a very stressful environment. I have plans and I have ideas for the future, but what I want was how I can make it work. What are the tools that I need? Because I didn't want to just, I don't want to just leave my work, because I felt that I would burn out in other places, in other situations. I said, I want to figure out how I solve this problem of burnout at work. And once I learned and I was there and I was very clear, I said, okay, in some point I decided now I want to change a career. Now I want to move to the other. So when I was doing the transition, I was not running for something. And that's something that I talk a lot with people is when you change jobs, if you have a very stressful job or you don't like someone in your job and you change job and the same problems keep happening in the following job. So I said, that's something to get attention on that, because that's something on you. So I really want to do a clean transition for my second step, because I want to create a new career. I want to move to a different place. So it was a lot of changes in my life, but I want to do a clean transition. So I said, and that was really important for me because I stayed in my job more 2 or 3 years, and then I made the transition.
Oh,
And I think what I learned there, I could apply in everything else. I could apply when I moved to Canada, because it's different problems, but also can be very stressful. Being in a new country, being in a new place, and I moved with my kids, they were still young, could be a lot of stress as well. And I think it's the same time that moving to a new place is very exciting. I think everybody who do this change, who decide to change, independent of the reason, is excited about the idea, but also there is so many challenges that we don't even know that they are coming, because it's just like different culture, different place, process, right? We have a lot of visas process to become like a citizen of the world or the citizen of another country. Is so many things that you have to, in terms of bureaucracy and things that could be very stressful as well. But I think is if you have the tools, because what I noticed was that I moved to Whistler and I was with my kids. My husband took like 2 years to move. So it was a time that was a huge challenge, because I didn't have my family anymore to support me. And even my husband wasn't here. But again, I was grounded and I had the tools that I could apply. And also I have very clear why I was moving to Whistler. So all the challenge that came was like, oh, it's part of the package. It was not something, oh, now I have this. Oh, now. And it's interesting because I had friends that also moved here and I saw how different they were dealing with the challenges. And I think it's like you need to know why you're going, and that, and what are your priorities, and what are the things that you love in the place, or what are the things, because I believe that Whistler is my dream place, but every place has things that you like and you don't like. Every place has like something that, oh, that's not that great, or the weather is not that great. Could be anything, but you have to remember why you're there, and the reasons that took you to the place need to be higher than the reasons that you don't like there. So you always need to check that. But I think having the tools to manage your stress and to work on yourself makes a huge difference, because changing to a new place, for me, the best outcome was the freedom that I feel today, that I can live everywhere. And I probably believe that you relate with that because you have been in the world. Because after moving for the first time, I always felt, I have all my family, I have my apartment, I felt so grounded, so stuck to the place that was terrifying moving. After I came to Whistler, I love here, but maybe, I don't know, maybe in 5 years I will be in a different place. And I don't feel I feel the connection with the place, but I don't feel that I'm stuck here. I don't feel that I'm grounded and I have to be here. And that's, for me, it's a very good feeling. It's a really feeling of freedom that you apply in several other areas of your life. But I think it's a big thing in terms of where you live and where you stay.
Yeah, I think your story is a great example that from two people having a big corporate career, in financial markets, both of you, then decided within a few years to kind of bring the family, 2 kids, still young, into a totally new country, which is from summer to winter almost, if we look at Brazil to Canada, and to see that what has been important in your story is you getting clarity from that time off, and then your why it was super important. It's like every year in Whistler, you are choosing again this place. So when you say the freedom of being there is because it's a chosen place. So sometimes we say, you know, we have a family from blood and we have a chosen family, but it's the same. It's when we have this sense of this feeling of I choose to be here and I take the place as, you know, the good and the bad. It's like me in Bali. Bali is not the, you know, great for everything, but I choose to be there for certain reason and I embrace why I'm there. So it's a good reminder for the listeners to, you know, there is no perfect place, but it's the reason where choose the place where you want to be, where you have this connection, and then see a person like Sabrina moving all the family, even doing it on her own for 2 years. And also, were you an entrepreneur before moving to Canada?
Yeah, that's a very, because the movement, we moving to Canada was like really huge, because I left my job, I think 1.5 years before doing the moving. And then I was starting a business in Brazil. So I was starting my entrepreneurship in Brazil as a coach, as a business coach at the time. And I was really like in the beginning, I was developing, I have a tiny room that I rented and I was starting having one-on-ones. So when we start talking about moving to Canada, I said, well, so let's do right away, because I'm just starting my business. So we pause, we move, and then we figure out. So we decided that would be a perfect timing. But again, was another element that was so different, because we decided to buy a company in Whistler to come here. So I paused my coaching business totally. So I said, okay, I'll focus on the new company, buying, learning, doing. But again, it's so different. I was as active in a big corporation, very stable, very tight. And is this idea the same when you move? Because freedom brings, I think, looseness and flexibility in everything. And it's kind of entrepreneurship. If you are an entrepreneur, you don't have the rigidity of the corp world, but you also have, okay, it's loose, like money comes, money goes. It's, and it's, you really need to play with that. So it was something that for us, like, we did this all together. So for the first time, I felt I was ready to become an entrepreneur, because for years I was terrified about being an entrepreneur. My dad had a history of from corp becoming entrepreneur, and the ups and downs of the business always terrified me. And I remember because he always told me, like, he was so happy being a business owner, entrepreneur. And I was always like, I don't know how you can be so happy with that, because I felt in my perception, he was always stressed and he was always working a lot. But in his own perception was his dream business. So when I came here, well, like, this was another piece that I was changing dramatically. And I felt that I was ready. I was really like, okay, I want to do that. It was not like, oh, I don't have any option. Oh, I would like to find a job in Canada. No, I really said, I want to live in Whistler. The easiest way, or what we thought would be the best solution, would having a business. And was amazing, because it's very flexible. I have flexible hours. I will have flexible work. Again, you are directly responsible to your business. So you have this, like, if you don't work, you don't have work, you don't have money. If you work, you have, and it happens. And I believe that everything, when you are aligned, happens. And that's what also happened. And I think is this relation of freedom versus what you want. Like you want to be more free, things will be looser. Like the business, I work 7 days a week because people say, "Oh, you don't work much." No, I do. I do work quite a lot, but in a different way. And in the beginning was hard for myself. Like I was so used not to ever work on weekends anymore. And now I have to work on weekends. But again, I don't need to do 10 hours a day. I have day offs that sometimes is a Tuesday and I don't need to work and I can enjoy, I can go to the mountain. So it's a different dynamic. And at the beginning was very hard because I wasn't used to. I was used to structure. I was used to, I woke up really early and I leave my home and I go to the office and there nobody bother me and I work like X hours. And then suddenly I'm working from home. I have kids coming and going. The dynamic here was also very different. My kids in Brazil only have play dates on weekends. Here they would play with kids every day, anytime. Everybody is close by. The kids, they can walk by themselves. Everything is so different and I love it. But the truth is, I was so used to a different dynamic that in the beginning, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if I should do this way. Or sometimes is that you're so used that you work on Mondays that you don't take a day off on Monday and ski the whole day because you just feel like almost guilt. I don't know. And over time, you just like, yeah, Saturday I was working, Monday I'm be skiing the whole day. So it was a big change, I think. And it's a lot on your head. It's a lot on the beliefs you have, the conditioning you have, because my whole life I was trained to no. One thing that for me was so different in terms of my routine here, I always wake up and went to work was the first priority. So if I want to do something for myself, like, oh, I want to run, I would run really early, like 6 o'clock in the morning, or would go to the gym 5:30 and then I would go to work. So my priority was my day begins with work. Today, my day doesn't begin with work. My day begins with myself. So my first thing in the day will be I walk my dogs or I meditate or I do some exercise. I eat breakfast. Whatever I do, it's for myself. Sometimes I will study or I read something, but it's always like my day starts with myself. And it's interesting to see because even today for my husband, he has a hard time doing that because for him, it's like, oh, I want to start with work so I finish that. And I learned like, no, I don't need to feel work never finish. That's my feeling. It never finish. So I prefer to start with myself so I'm ready to go to work. So that was a big difference, I think, in being entrepreneur, because generally you have more flexibility to do that when you have your own business, and changing my mind so I could add it because so many entrepreneurs also burn out, also work 10 hours, 12 hours. And it's worse because then they get like in this machine that they are worried and they want to do this. And when they see they are working continuously day after day and they can create a break, a pause, what you said, like I love it, a pause so they can do something different. Because we think that, oh, corporations kind of slave us. It's true. But also we have a good ability to slave ourselves by ourselves when we have our business.
Yeah, exactly. Because we are conditioned to a certain way that we feel guilty if we don't do the work, or we have, or what is a business model or a life model where work is just 2 or 3 hours a day. Like we are not so used to it. And years ago, I did burn out as an entrepreneur as well. And it's like, wow, I need to shift something. I need to change the structure. I need to change the way I'm doing things. So I love what you bring about, corporate was really structure, and then you need to create your own kind of structure as an entrepreneur and being super aware of your belief system. Why are you doing things? Are you putting yourself first in the morning, creating this morning routine for yourself, for connecting with your dog, your husband, having time with your family, doing something that you love, self-care and all of that, and then doing work? Because one thing I think we all have to remember is when you, especially when you are entrepreneur, work never stop. There is
Never.
always something to do, always. So you need to be, in general, very disciplined with yourself to actually prioritize the rest. So then work can fit in and not you fitting in your calendar. So yeah, how has been to actually work with your husband? Is the relationship, because you have been together for many years? How did
Yeah.
your love relationship evolve? Also with the fact that you move in a foreign country and all of that.
Well, for us, we had a lot of trial before moving because everybody say like, you don't get tired of working together, being in the same business, working from home. The truth is, we have been working together since olden days. I think since 1999 that we worked together. So we started working together before we got married. So we worked together in the bank, then we worked together in his business, and then we worked together in the last corporation that I worked in, the broker dealer. We also worked together. And there we developed a dynamic, a working dynamic. So we always had things like we avoid discussing work all the time at home. We already had like a hard time not discussing work when we were driving to work or driving from work because it was so alive in us that sometimes we would discuss in the car. But once we were at home, we tried like not to discuss. And also we learn a lot about each other because I think at work it's a environment that you tend to have a lot of stressful moments where you're very high on stress. So I always say people, if you want to know how a person is, meet them at work because you are more raw when you're stressed. Your filters kind of, so we see each other. I know how he reacts to things and he knows how I react. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? So over the time, we were looking at each other. So we learned how we were as business persons or as entrepreneurs or as actives. So when we moved here, it was easier because it was a business that we have more control. In the corporation, you don't have a lot of control. And it's interesting because the last position we had in a corporation, he was commercial, I was operations. It's kind of what we have today in our own business. He's more commercial, I'm more operation. So we kind of already know how to deal with each other. And I always say that husband and wife working together is an art. I always say people, it's an art. You really need to know each other. And you really need to know each other at work. Because I know Leo, I know what stress him. I know the things that he doesn't like. So I'm always like, okay, I would say that, but I don't need to say that because I know how he is going to react. So, and I think in some ways it's the same. He knows how I think. And I think it's very important, not only at work, but in any relationship, you need to have boundaries. If it's a commercial thing and I really don't agree, but he's the owner of that area. I let him. Doesn't matter that it's our business. I'm not the one dealing with clients. So even if, and I can see that sometimes we have this discussion, he asks me something and he will say, yeah, I know you don't agree because, being from operations, I'm always like tougher. I'm always more looking for the financial side or for the cost side. He's looking more for the revenue sides and it's good because it's two different views. I think that's what you need, because if we both were very commercial, we would suffer in our finance area, in our operational area. So it's good that we have this balance, but also you need to know when, those issues I will let for him and certain issues he will leave for me and have, because I think in everything you need to have this. We have this in the house, we have this in our personal finance. Like there are certain things that I don't like doing and I don't do it and he does, and certain things that he doesn't do it. So most of the controls I do, but for example, I don't like dealing with cars, insurance, maintain, I don't like. So he deals with that. And sometimes I can see that he doesn't want it and I don't do this. And he does. So I think in relationship, we need to have certain things that, it's his part is my part, because then we can adapt, and the sum will be more than 100. If we are both all doing everything, sometimes it's just like too much. So I think that's what happened in our relationship. It really works well, and working together, because we just learn what are the strengths of each one, what are the things that we like doing, what are the things that we don't like doing. So, and I could see that over time, even some functions that used to be from the operational side, he took over just because it's easier for him to do. So I used to manage the owners of the properties, and the new owners he manages and he deals, because it's kind of a commercial thing, but it was part of operations initially on our business. And then we start like, and I think that's what is important. Like when we see the qualities that each one has, the things that it's easy for you to do, because sometimes you don't love doing something, but it's easy for you to do. I don't love doing all the controls. I don't love doing my accountability, the accounting or bookkeeping. I don't love those things, but I can do that, and I can kind of easily do it. I know that if I push for him to do, would be a nightmare. So I think you have to agree. And again, it's what you said before. It's always about clarity. And the thing is, if you are burnout, or if you are like dealing with high levels of stress every day, the first thing that you lose is your clarity. The first thing that stops working well is your reasoning, because even the arguments when people is too stressed, they don't make any sense. You feel that they make sense, but generally they don't make any sense. That's why I think it's so important to notice how you stress, because I had moments here that my levels of stress would raise. Could be business crisis, or the COVID years that we didn't have business for 2 years. So you have moments in life. You always will have moments that the stress will rise, but you need to see that, oh, I'm getting, and okay, what I'm doing to maintain and to lower. And I think that's the important thing. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter if, because you have to see that more you want to be in control of your life, more you have to be in control of your things. Because more, like, you want to do more things, you want to travel, you want to be in a different country, you want to have your own business, you have to be more aware of things. And it's not that, oh, that's too much. No, and that's the thing why we talked also about awareness. Awareness is something that you have this, you know what is going on, but not necessarily you are there all the time doing a to-do list. And I think that's why awareness is so important in terms of stress and burnout, because if you're aware of your level of stress, you naturally will do things, you know when to say, today I need a day off, or today I need to do a good workout, or I will do a good walk in nature, because something is building up. You don't need to be in a point that they said, I can't do this anymore, to take decisions. And also, you don't need to be every day, oh, I have this 100 items in my to-do list for my self-care that if I don't do every day, it's a problem. Because that's the other thing. And I believe that you had the same experience. There is probably 100 things for my wellness, but I don't do all the time. I do some, even like meditating. I had times in my life that I was meditating half an hour, 40 minutes. And I had times that I meditate 5 minutes, because I have times that I do walking meditation. I kind of like do practice that to have the experience that I always had in meditations, but they are not necessarily is a formal meditation. So, and it changes, and you need to be aware when you need to be those change, because if you feel you need to do the 100 item list, you need 5 hours of your day just for wellness. And we know that generally is not how life works. Maybe some days you have 5 hours, but not every day, not every single day. And it's the same way I believe that you don't need to work every day 8 hours or 6 hours. You need, some days you might work even 10 because you're inspired, you're in a project, you're in a deadline, and you go and you stretch yourself, but then in the other day you just come. And I think that movement that we talk so much, that is the balance, is really important. And the balance is not a static position that is that. Balance is always this idea of flow. And I know that you also will agree in terms of like flow. I think that's the important thing is learn to flow with life.
Yeah.
And then you have this movement, this constant movement.
Yeah, I think you're bringing something so important about the awareness. So first, the awareness, also working in a relationship at work, like not putting oil on the fire, not amplifying a fire when you know if you say that it's going to make, stress even more to the other person. So you are kind of dealing with the situation in a different way to actually calm and reduce the stress instead of amplifying the stress. And then having enough awareness and tools, I would say, to know what is beneficial for you. And I love what you bring about, it's not having a list of 100 tasks to do for your self-care, because I think it's part of the journey where we put so much pressure on ourselves that, okay, now I need to be self-care, I need to meditate, I need to do that and that and that, and then it's become a work actually. It's what you said. So 5 hour days is even more stressful than work. So it doesn't get the benefits of what was the purpose at first. So it's really encouraging everyone who listen to, okay, now that you have tools, that you see what is beneficial for you. So yes, sometimes you need to try the tools for maybe 21 days or 3 months to, get a habit to try something. But if you accumulate all your tools all the day, it's going to be too much. But once you integrate and
Yeah.
you have a toolbox, that right now, for example, for me, the only thing I do is journaling. I can't do much more. It's not I can't. I can, but it's just I don't feel the need right now to do more meditation and all those things. So I'm just focusing on this one thing that I love, that I've been reconnected with, because before I stop, and then I'm putting my intention into that even deeper than before. So you do one thing at a time that you actually do well, from a place of, this is my self-care. This is what I need to help myself to, navigate life and the flow and all of that. So it's really removing as well the stress from, performing in other areas that work, because then you do the same in your family, or you want to be the greatest mother, and then and you're stressing out in all the case. So remembering that nothing is stable, everything is impermanent, I think it's a good outcome of what you just shared. And so we spoke a lot about burnout. Did this happen only once to you?
No, I think the 2011 was the more was the highest burnout I had, because I think was the time that I really had this feeling I can't do anymore. Before that, I would say that I was constantly a little bit burnout. And one of the reasons I remember, every Friday, I was always complaining about being tired and things. And even after moving here, I wouldn't say that I had burnouts, but I had moments that I really felt that I need to stop. And that's the other thing, because if you pay attention, pause is something that is really important in our lives. But stopping, when I say when you're stopping, it's like, oh, or you are too stressed and you get tired and you get a cold and you stay like 3, 4, 5 days. For me, this is a stop. A pause is something that you say, I need to rest, and you pause a day, or even if you do 2, 3 days, but you're not avoiding to do anything. You're just doing a different way. So I remember times here that I felt like I can't do this anymore. But the difference was I didn't have a burnout in a sense that I said, I need to have a major change in my life because that's not working. I never had that after 2011, but I did have like situations that I said, I could feel, and sometimes I would just say, again, when I get sick, if I have a cold, and most of the time I would say we have colds because we don't relate to that. We don't relate disease with stress directly. We always think, oh, I saw someone that had a cold and I got the virus. It's true, but you got the virus because your immune system was low. And most of the time, our immune system is low because of stress. And it could be like one episode, could be just one, because if you have a major discussion and you feel stressed, your immune system is low for 6 hours immediately. So when you get a cold, and a really bad cold, and you feel 10 days in bed, is because your immune system have been really low. So I had moments like that. And what I'm becoming better and better, and that's what I think is, again, when life, I talk about balance, is I'm bouncing back faster and faster. That's what I notice. Even when I have one day that I'm so upset with something and I'm so tired, and could be the kids and stuff, like, oh, I can't deal with the kids. Okay, I'm feeling really stressed. What I will do to support myself? Because generally, in the olden days, I could go in, or I could be in bed or watch TV or try to distract myself, but I was not consciously trying to support myself or to change that. And this is a major difference on what I do today, because even today when I'm very upset, because when we are very upset or when you're very stressed, you don't want to do anything. You have this feeling like, I want to be by myself, don't bother me. So what I try today is like, what would be one thing that if I did now, I would feel happy or a little bit better? Because sometimes you won't feel happy, but you feel like a little bit better. So I have a list that I own, the things that I kind of like doing. And sometimes I look on my list, because sometimes I love puzzling, but sometimes you don't want to do a puzzle. Or sometimes, I go to the ice rink and to ice skating, and 30 minutes there will be fun. So I try to do something, because I know, and again, doing anything that I like will help me to bounce back. And that's something very important, because we tend to do the opposite. We tend to do things that are not really good for us when we are too stressed. We are too stressed, we overeat. We are too stressed, we eat food that are not good for us. And then, because then you feel like I don't want to cook. And then or you drink, and again, it's not that I'm totally against drinking, but also it doesn't help you to relax. We think it helps us to relax, but it doesn't. So now what I try to do is, sometimes I will say I will go just for a walk in nature, because it's the most. And after the walk in nature, I will try to because I start being more conscious about my energy. And that makes a huge difference in life. Because if you really want to flow with life, you need to learn about how energy works in your body, in your mind, in the things that you interact in your business, because energy is easier to manage energy than it is to change things, forcing things. So I learned a lot in the process of dealing with burnout. I learned a lot about energy. So now I really do like, okay, what I could do. So, and even the tools, because I would never sit for a deep meditation if I'm stressed, but I could do a 5-minute energy exercise. I could do a 2-minute breath work, a HeartMath breath work. So I do those things. And it's what you said about becoming natural. It's becoming more and more natural. So certain things I do every day, but certain things I don't do, but I know when, that would help me today. I think that is the difference. And that's why it's so important to be always investing in yourself. When you go to a course, when you go to a workshop, when you go to a retreat, when you meet with people that are doing the same, when you have a regular meeting on that's how you support yourself, that you always know the tools. Because even with clients and people that I have friends, for example, I do a lot of tapping. Tapping is easy to lower stress. And every time I have friends sometimes saying, I'm having this tough situation. And I said, why don't you tap? And I'm amazed to see that most of the people that I mentioned, they knew tap, they used in the past, and just stopped using and they never used again. And then they said, yeah, it used to be so good. And that was so good. I said, it was so good. And it made such a difference in your life. Why you just forgot it? So that's what our brain does, because our brain is always so busy with so many things. But again, it's what you said about habits. It needs to be as easy as brushing our teeth. The same way we woke up every day and you brush your teeth, you don't want to think about that. You don't want to think about having a shower. You need to say, oh, I'm stressed. I will just breathe for 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I think you brought to all of us a very good advice is having like a cheat sheet where we have the list of 10 or 20 things that we love, that we know it's bringing us really good energy, really, going outside, doing puzzle and all those things. Writing down this list to have like a support, then we can always look back at, because yes, the brain is just forgetting about it. And then the same for the tools, like, okay, if typing has been working for you, if meditation has been working for you, maybe creating the same list that, you can always look back and, oh yeah, actually I used to do that and it was great, or I used to do yin yoga and it was great, and all those things. So it's having, it's always putting ourselves into a success of life. And it's, we need to be smart in a way that it's not always, it's really always actually easy to forget what is beneficial to us until it's becoming really integration. It's why for a lot of people, I believe, we start new things and then we're excited about it, and then we kind of forget to go to the next new things. But once you have a tool that you take the time to integrate, to have a habit, then you can put it really in your toolbox and really see it as a really physical toolbox where you can always go back at and, okay, what do I need today? Or I'm feeling stressed, what do I pick from that toolbox? So I really thank you for this big advice, because I think it's a very good point for people to remember what is feeding us in terms of good energy. On the last question, what I really love to ask people is, what is today your relationship with your finances?
Okay. My relationship with my finances, I have ups and downs, but today, and again, it comes from this remembering, right? Because it's so funny. I work with control and finance many years, right? When I work in finance, I'm on the operational side. I was always, and I had a friend that she worked with me. She was really good in controlling it, and her personal finance was really a mess because she would never do anything. So what I try today is to really pay attention on that, because, I'm doing the finance from the business and I'm always having the numbers in my head. So how I'm doing in my personal ones, because I have a tendency sometimes of neglecting, like not looking much. So I try to always, a few times a month to look about in terms of the long terms, in general numbers. And that I learned with my husband. My husband has numbers in his head, which is really good. I always have numbers in spreadsheet, but it's kind of like, of course, my numbers is more accurate, but I learn how good it is because, for example, I track, I don't know how much we did for groceries every month, but my husband has a general idea how much we spend every month. So he knows, I said, what numbers would be good. So having these big numbers in head, you can plan this stuff as well. So today what I do is I have some days of the month, generally days that I have paying things or receiving money, that I stop at least like half an hour to take a look over everything. So then I can have some numbers in my head and some numbers. And one thing that changed a lot, in terms of my personal finance, I started bringing all this aspect of energy to the finance, because numbers is what you always say, like, it's the numbers. It's set in stone. He gives us what it is, what it isn't. But there is also a component of, especially when you are an entrepreneur, of revenues coming in and, because expenses going out, that you can work energetically on that. So I always think, because one of my limiting beliefs for many years was like, you really need to work hard to make money, or money only comes with hard work. So I really work on that. And I start, because what happened is every time I stop to see my finance, I have this heavy feeling that it's heavy work. And I said, no, I need to love my finance. I need to bring this lightness that I had in other aspects of my life to my finance. It was very interesting because in the first times, every time I would open my bank and check things, I would have this heaviness. So that's something that I start changing. And again, money start coming better, flowing easier when you have that. Because I think I'm very organized. I never had issues in controlling my expenses. A lot of people has a lot of issues controlling expense. For me, that comes kind of naturally. I can't control my expense. But I always had this feeling like, it was harder as an entrepreneur. Because as an executive, every month I would know that 25th of the month, certain amount of money would come. I do have my salary today, but it makes a huge difference if we have property or not at the end of the year. So you don't have the same relationship. And I remember that could be very stressful. For example, here I have a seasonal business. So I have months that we don't have revenues coming. Those months I would always be so stressful. And it was interesting because I knew what was coming, but I was stressed anyway. So that's what I changed a lot, because I feel that for some people it will be hard looking for the numbers because they feel they are not organized, or they feel they don't like numbers. But again, it's a belief. It's something that they came from early years. I didn't have this part, but I had the part of like, numbers are serious and numbers are heavy, and it's hard work that makes if you work like lighter, or what I said, like if you work 3 hours a day, you won't make money. You will make some money, but not. So that's what, and I noticed that I started changing that when I was looking for my numbers, my personal number, my business numbers. And sometimes I tap, sometimes I visualize things. I started doing other type of work when I was looking to my numbers. Because again, it's the awareness to know where you are. If you can deal with your numbers, you need to do a workshop, you need to learn, and you have the tools to learn. But in my case, I did this many, many years for other people, but I would neglect my personal ones just because I'm like, I can't bother. Or when I work in the company as an executive, was more like, I don't need to do this. I know how much I'm earning. I know my costs are lower, and I have savings, and that's it. As an entrepreneur, it's different because we decide, again, but changing the energy that I was bringing when I was looking for my numbers was something very important. And again, because I would have a tendency of, oh, I don't want to look. Or sometimes I know that, but I don't want to really look to that. I know that I'm low on this, but, I will pretend that, and it doesn't help. It helps, it's looking and finding the solution. I think it's what you say always, like the numbers bring a clarity that is like a clear clarity about certain aspects of your life, of your business, of both actually. So it's important. So this is something that I start doing more. I would say in the last few years, I always look since I became entrepreneur, but this lightness, this tool. A lot of people, they tend to think, oh, when they have to do finance, it's almost like, oh, I have to do finance. No, it's you have to love your finance, because you have to love money. If you don't like your finance, it's the energy. You have to bring this energy of, oh, I love, and it brings good things. And yeah, sometimes you don't have as much as you want, but okay, so what we can do to, it's really like work on this way. If it's not reflecting the reality you like, what could you do to change it? I really believe on that. And sometimes can be tough, because times for us can be tough. And I think that was my main concern about being entrepreneur, because I would see my numbers going up, going down, and sometimes I'm like, was hard when as active, I was acting almost like entrepreneur, but in a business that I didn't need to worry about that. The worry was just when you're budgeting at the end of the beginning of the year, the end of the year, and you're doing all the things. But on a daily basis, my personal finance didn't have any ups and downs, was like set in stone. And that was a huge change, because I think entrepreneurs, they need, and I see so many people that they have great business, and then suddenly they notice they are in real trouble just because they were not looking to their numbers, or they only start looking for numbers when they are too big or too messy. When I said, well, you could do this before you have the business, you can do the planning, you can have, because one thing that I noticed, and I had friends that I taught, they were starting business, and then they would say, but I'm not making enough. I said, have you ever did the math? Like how many you have to sell on this product to make this amount to cover? And they were like looking, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking? I said, oh, okay. But again, because I was always from operations and finance, it was natural. This math for me was natural. But looking the details, sometimes like, oh, I don't know. Or sometimes you want to spend some money, and you kind of know that it's a stretch, but you don't want to know. And more, I'm more open and feeling more confident. Okay, even if it's stretch, let me see how much is this a stretch, and really look more regularly to my finance. So it was a change, and I will say, and it keep changing, because I think that's important. It keep changing. I really want. I don't feel I'm in the place of what we're going to talk about being natural. It's still not natural. It happens because I see to do my finance for my companies. I end up doing my personal kind of together when I see it, but it's not natural. And it's something that it's on my list of, I want this to be more than natural. I would say I want to enjoy that, because I believe when you enjoy, look for your numbers, you will be bringing more, doing more.
And for me, is the awareness brings freedom, because you are actually making the right choices based on what you want. And so it's really always what we avoid that we are avoiding, but then once we can embrace it, is kind of okay, what is the situation, what is the reality of things? And then okay, from having a lot of insight and fact, I can make new decision to go to whatever I need. Because same as you, a lot of people I've been working with, they tell me that no, I can't do less hour, I can't, or I will lose client and all of that. But then once we sit down and we look at numbers, actually they can. They just have the belief it has to work hard and all of that. So numbers are really supporting transitional shift, and more finding harmony in life, like this work-life balance. If you really want to achieve freedom in general, you need to have a look to that. You cannot just skip the finances part. So thank you for even saying this, because I think it's also giving another perspective to people on how important is it to create the life that you want, but you also not have to, but you must do things that, okay, I need to consider that as well. I need to consider where I am in my finances. So thank you so much, Sabrina. Just before we close up, I do a rapid five. It's just 5 quick questions you can answer in, let's say, 5 words or one sentence maximum. And just, share with us what is coming for you. The first question is, one thing you would love for your life today?
Freedom.
Yeah. One thing you would love for the world?
Peace.
The worst advice you have received?
life is hard.
And the best advice you have received?
You are 100% responsible for your life.
And the last question, if you have a magic wand, what would you transform?
I would transform. Oh, I would be traveling easier. No planes. I would do like transport, like a teletransport, because I love traveling. I don't love the plane thing. That's what I would do. So we could like be in Bali.
Yeah, I
Be in
love
Europe.
that. I'm a yes to that. Saving so much time.
Exactly. Every time. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Have an amazing journey. You will be able to connect with her to know more about, how to overcome burnout and stress and having the right tools. And thank you for sharing. And see you again.
You.